Major, minor, triads, and inversions. Ear training.
Hello, and welcome to Ear Training with Spock. This video contains 2 tests on the inversions of triads. So far, all the tests we've looked at in terms of chords, they've been in what we call root position, where the root, the bottom note of the triad, or chord, is on the bottom. In this test, what we're going to do is we're going to look at the inversions. There are 3 notes in a triad, and each one of them has a different level of energy. The most passive of the 3 is the root, and when the root is on the bottom, the triad is said to be in its most passive form. And this is shown off better when the root is either down a couple octaves or doubled down a couple of octaves. And you very clearly hit here that the root is on the bottom. This is root position triad. It's very passive. If I take that same chord and I take the 5th and I put it on the bottom, when it is in a closed voicing, you don't hear it as clearly, but if I put that down a couple of octaves, now you clearly hear there's a little bit of tension. And that tension is created because the brain knows that the root is supposed to be on the bottom, and in this instance, it's not. And if you can't hear the tension, listen to this. And now. That second chord is more passive because the root was on the bottom. So the most passive of the notes is the root. And the next most passive, I suppose, is the 5th. The most active note in a triad is the 3rd, the one in closed root position form, the one we call the middle note. When it's on top of a chord, it brightens the chord. When it's on the bottom of the chord, it gives an energy. That energy is a tension that needs to be resolved. And it can be resolved in 3 ways. You change the bottom note so the tension is gone. Put it back to the root. You can change the chord to fit the new note, in which case I had a C major triad over an E going to an E minor. And the third way is to change the note to the closest scale step and then change the chord above to fit that new scale step. And this is one of the things that creates movement in music, and so that one chord can flow to another, and you can come up with a chord progression, which is the basis in one way of looking at a song. So recognizing these sounds is very important, and then you can hear things in your head and you can write them out. So usually ear training tests on inversions have them in closed position. In which case, at least at first, you have to hear them broken, or it's hard for a lot of people to make that distinction. So when we look at the inversion of intervals, you have 2 notes, and it's either like this or it's like this. Another way you can think of that whole thing is which note is on the bottom. If you have the notes A and B, and if A is on the bottom, then that's a major second. If the B is on the bottom, then that's minor 7th. Same thing with the triads. Which note is on the bottom? If it's passive, that means the root is on the bottom. If there's a little bit of an energy, that means the 5th is on the bottom. We call that second inversion. If the 3rd is on the bottom, we call that first inversion. Why is it called first inversion? Because there's 3 notes in a triad. And these definitions come from hundreds of years ago. And the way they looked at it is if the root is on the bottom, that's the proper way to present the chord. But if the 3rd is on the bottom, that's the first note above the root. So we call that first inversion. If the 5th is on the bottom, that's the second note above the root. And so we call that second inversion. If we're dealing with a 4-part chord, and the 7th was on the bottom, then that's the 3rd note above the root, and so that would be 3rd inversion. With triads, you don't have a 3rd inversion. It's root position, root is on the bottom. first inversion, the third is on the bottom. Second inversion, the fifth is on the bottom. If we do that again, now we're back to root position, only one octave higher than where we started. So this test, to make it a little easier, what I'm going to do is I'm going to double the roots down 2 octaves. So it makes it very obvious, and you can hear that energy. In subsequent videos, I won't do that, and that'll make it harder. But this is like a warm-up to inversions. If you hear this in a musical setting, quite frequently there will be a bass player or some bass instrument to play that and make it more noticeable. As always, these tests are going to be on 2 levels. Those for the beginning ear students, you just want to hear the difference between the triads. For the more advanced ear training students, each note will share a note or move by step to the next chord. And we always start off with a C major scale to get your bearings. And then from there on, your task is to not only figure out what inversions they are, you are to figure out exactly what the triads are. So instead of just major triad first inversion, this would be C major first inversion, or C over E. That would be F in root position. So, here we go. Good luck. Test number 1. Major and minor triads and their inversions. The C major scale. Minor triad, D minor, in root position. Major triad, C major, in first inversion, or C over E. Major triad, F major, in root position. Minor triad, C minor, in second inversion, or C minor over G. Major triad, B flat major, in first inversion, or B flat over D. Major triad, A flat major in second inversion, or A flat over E flat. Minor triad, A flat minor, in root position. Major triad, G major, in first inversion, or G over B. Major triad, E flat major in second inversion, or E flat over B flat. Major triad, B major in root position. Major triad, A flat major in first inversion, or A flat over C. Minor triad, F minor in second inversion, or F minor over C. Major triad, A major in second inversion, or A over E. Major triad, D flat or C sharp major in first inversion, or D flat over F. Minor triad, E minor in first inversion, or E minor over G. End of test 1. Test number 2. Major and minor triads and their inversions. The C major scale. Minor triad, C minor in second inversion, or C minor over G. Major triad, E flat major in first inversion, or E flat over G. Major triad, D flat major in second inversion, or D flat over A flat. Minor triad, B flat minor in root position. Major triad, D major in second inversion, or D over A. Major triad, B major in root position. Major triad, A flat major in first inversion, or A flat over C. Minor triad, C minor in second inversion, or C minor over G. Major triad, G major in first inversion, or G over B. Major triad, A major in root position. Major triad, F sharp or G flat major in first inversion, or F sharp over A sharp. Minor triad, E minor in second inversion, or E minor over B. Minor triad, D minor in second inversion, or D minor over A. Minor triad, A minor in first inversion, or A minor over C. Minor triad, C minor in root position. Major triad, F major in second inversion, or F over C. End of test 2.